Welcome back to the Queen City Soccer Show. This is LvlUpLuke, and I am joined today by a special guest, Sam Spencer, the editor-in-chief of SoccerSheet.com. Sam, how are you doing this evening?
Doing quite all right. Hope you're having a wonderful week, Luke.
Oh, absolutely. I am, but unfortunately, we do have to talk about a soccer team tonight who just came off a heartbreaking defeat, the Charlotte Independence. This is kind of a mid-season update as the Independence USL Cup run has come to a close. I just want to chat with you, Sam, because I see you out there at the Independence games. You're one of the best reporters in the Charlotte market to talk about soccer and all the pro teams here. So I want to get your thoughts on the Independence in the USL Cup, winning their group, advancing to the knockout round, one of only two USL League One teams to advance. Can you tell me a little bit about how they got to this point and how much does it mean for the Charlotte Independence to represent USL League One in the knockout round in the quarterfinals of the USL Cup?
Yeah, I think it's demonstrative of the quality that Charlotte Independence have had this year. It's been a really good run for them. And while they were not the USL One team that advanced last night, Spokane Velocity was able to advance on penalties. So USL One will still be in the cup in the semifinals. It's really interesting to see this tournament evolve because the first tournament happened. Charlotte made it to finals when it was just USL, lost to Fort Madison in that semifinal match. And then last year, we're not able to get out of the group stage with the new format with playing USL championship teams, but they were really close. They were near the top of the group table. And this time around, they showed that they can compete on this level, which isn't too surprising given that the Charlotte Independence at one point were a USL championship team and have one of the longest tenured coaches in all of professional soccer in Mike Jeffries. I can't think of any coaches off the top of my head who have coached one singular team, for as many years total and consecutive as Mike Jeffries. You just don't see coaches unless they're Pep Guardiola, stay with the same team for that long. So I think that's, they have the infrastructure. They know what it's like to compete. They know what it means, and they're also on a really good run in the USL One regular league this year. They're in second place. They have a game in hand. In a couple weeks, they play Union Omaha, and that should be the match that really determines who comes up on top there. And so, this could finally be the year that, even though it's not going to happen in the USL Cup, that the Charlotte Independents get some hardware, because they've been waiting. They've been waiting for a long time, and they have a quality team. The match at Sportsplex was just that. I think that was really, really rough for them. We can go into it, but they still have a team with the quality to win USL League One.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've been on record here on the podcast saying this is, in my opinion, the most talented Independence team I've seen in the 10 plus years that I've been, going to games and following the team here. It's incredible. And they've been dealing with injuries off and on all season. But the Hartford Athletic matchup on Wednesday night here was not the first time that they encountered a USL championship side this season. In fact, it is the fourth. And Independence came away victorious in the first three matchups against Charleston Battery, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and then Charleston Battery away. So, Sam, a 3-0 record coming into this game against a higher level of competition. You had to feel going into this match that Charlotte may not be the underdog.
I mean, I got to push back on that. I mean, Hartford are the defending champions for the USL Cup. I still think that the Independents were going to be the underdog facing a USL Championship team, and Hartford knows how to win this tournament. Um, so even though the Independents were able to get past the Riverhounds in kicks and get past Charleston Battery in kicks, it's still you know I don't know. I don't know if you can say that that is necessarily, you know, an underdog, even though obviously, the Independents beating the Battery in the Open Cup and, beat that one went to extra time. The second time they beat Charleston Battery, it went to kicks. Um, but then we saw a really, really rough match for the Independents in the U.S. Open Cup when they fell 6-0 to Charlotte, and everything went wrong in that match. You've got your keeper getting a red card almost at the beginning of the match, and then Charlotte just puts together 6 goals with the B team. Nympha gets a goal, Kessler gets a goal, Goodwin gets a goal. It was just like, um, I think that match was sort of like the Icarus moment for the Independents, because even though they've performed really well in most of these USL Championship matchups, um, you know they play a Division 1 team, they get absolutely slaughtered, and there is still a lot of daylight between Division 2 and Division 3. Um, so, I wasn't expecting the Independents to win. I would have wanted them to win. Obviously, even though I'm a reporter and I am like neutral point of view in this, you obviously want to be able to see your teams play more games and cover more matches. Um, but on the other hand, I I felt like the Independents were in it until they had that second goal. We talked to Mike Jeffries last night. He just didn't think it was a defensive breakdown. Just thought it was an errant pass that set up a one-on-one against Matt in goal, and you can't expect a keeper to defend um, a one-on-one and every time. And so when they went down 2, it looked rough. If they had been able to go and take one of those goals back before halftime when they were playing really well, I think it would have been a different match. But then they just flagged in the middle of the second half, and even though they showed a lot of resilience and were able to get 2 goals back and really contest things in 10 minutes of extra time. um again, like, would love to see the Jacks win, would love to see them advance deeper in every competition. But you know, at some point you're going to hit a wall when you're playing in a league where, um, as soon as somebody shows a lot of talent, they get scooped up by the championship, or they go up a league, or they go somewhere else.
Yeah, and it was a tough game for Charlotte. Hartford came out. They looked clearly more physical, faster. It was a different level of competition, but Independence seemed like they were in the mix at times in the first half. They were keeping what I thought was a pretty good momentum. The possession numbers throughout the game were 50-50, dead even. And like I said, I thought Charlotte Independence was in it, but that second goal was absolutely a deciding moment in the match where, like you said, defensive error, and we have Mike Jeffries after the game talking about it. So I'm going to include the post game interviews on this episode as well. Um, yeah, it was tough, man. They score 4. Independence has 1. It is 4-1. Independence takes one back late. The last 15-20 minutes, though, I really thought we could see an epic comeback. With the way Independence was playing at the end of that game, the 10 minutes of added time that turned into 14, it seemed like they were on the front foot. They had opportunities, but they weren't able to capitalize. Hartford, towards the end of the match, were playing scared, in my opinion. They were just trying to hold on to the lead and were surrendering on a lot of possessions. One twist in this that I thought kind of killed the momentum was the implementation of a new video review system, which is being nicknamed VAR Lite. It's an alternative to the VAR system used in MLS and FIFA competitions. From what I understand, it's designed for smaller venues with more limited camera review options. I'm not exactly sure of all of the details on it, but it seems like scoring plays are reviewed, and then coaches have 2 coach challenges that they can, in football terms, throw the red flag and get the video review system to take another look at a play. It seemed like in this match, Hartford used both of theirs at momentum moments when Charlotte was going to regain or maintain possession to basically call a timeout. And out of the 3 challenges that I saw, none were overturned. None of the goals were overturned. But the VAR did seem to have an impact on the momentum. What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think you can come up with any, problem there. Like you can blame the momentum, but at the same time, Charlotte, they had shots, they had scoring opportunities when they got back down the field. Um, they had a set piece where if at any time, they got fouled right at the top of the 18. Um, if you want to win the match, you gotta make a goal off of that set piece. You got to get your balls up frame. Um, so I think it was a trade off, because also, on the other hand, from those VAR moments, that's how you get 10 to 14 minutes of stoppage time at the end of the match, where it seemed like the Independents were, really contesting it. So if they had made their shots, um, I think that's what it comes down to. Like, you get more shots on frame. Um, that's how they would have contested the match a little better. And I think they also know that. Like, when we talked to Clay after the match, it was very clear. He was really proud of how they played in spurts, and then knew the mistakes the team made as well. Um, but at the same time, I think you could definitely see those momentum shifts, and it's it. Whatever you think of it, it definitely slowed the match slowed the match down, and you don't see 10 minutes of stoppage in that many USL matches.
Yeah, agreed. Would you like to see the system utilized next season in USL League One?
I mean, that's hard. That's a hard question for the lower leagues, because you don't have VAR in the lower leagues in, say Great Britain. And does it do you want a faster game? Do you want it more exciting? Um, I think it really depends. And unfortunately, the Independents have had a lot of trouble getting numbers at American Legion Memorial Stadium, and down at the Sportsplex when they need to play there. And I feel like if you really um, a a smaller, the VAR is a smaller impact on the match than um, fans and excitement. And I really think you have a fun product in the Independence. It's the probably the most underrated sports experience in Charlotte. Um, and I think if you could just double the butts and seats, um, and have that fan enthusiasm, the talent's there, and I think if you had you know a couple thousand screaming fans every match, that that would make just as big a positive difference in things like momentum.
Sure, sure. We had another big momentum moment in the probably about the 62nd minute when Luis Alvarez goes down with an injury in the run of play, and it's pretty obvious off the bat that he's down. It's a real injury. Hartford grabs the ball and continues to play with it. The ref doesn't blow anything dead, and the Hartford player is already at this point, 3-1. I'm sorry. At that point, continue to play the ball and really pushing for another goal in that moment. Up a man with Luis down injured. The teams come together. A fight kind of breaks out on the pitch. It seems like a very unsportsmanlike moment from the Hartford team playing against a lower level of competition. Uh, that was pretty rough to watch. Luis, obviously one of the best players for the Independents, but also one of the best players in USL League One. We talked to the coach after the game, and it seems like it could be a quad injury. We're going to be looking for an injury status update today, tomorrow, days to come. But it looks like Luis will be out for some period of time here. He was just coming off of returning from another injury just a few weeks ago. Sam, tell me about that moment, and what does the loss of Luis Alvarez mean for the Independents as they're making their push here?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely somebody who you don't want to lose down the stretch. And of course, Enzo's been injured. You're going to have to look to. I think Maru's really going to need to step up, and that's something we saw in this match as well. Where on the one hand, Hartford was really strong defensively. He was having trouble getting service, but at the same time, you have to make yourself open to get that service, and you have to fight. And once the Independents were down 2-3 goals, that's when you have to start challenging the keeper hard. You have to force them to make mistakes. And one of the things you mentioned earlier is like how much bigger and more athletic Hartford Athletic, could be in spouts. Anthony Siaha, their keeper, um, you know, tall guy, big guy, and he was a big part of the altercation. After that, got a yellow card. And when I talked to him after the match, he thought he just got, he thought he was just going up there to support his teammates, and somehow, got into the mix, and uh, and the official gave him a yellow card. So it was definitely the moment in the match when the tempers ran the highest, and probably with losing Alvarez in that moment. And I think that was a big hit to the momentum for Charlotte. I think another one was right in front of goal. One of the problems with the VAR light was that I think going back in video, we saw like a clear and obvious handball for
Yeah.
Hartford in front of the goal. PK really could have changed the momentum of the game there, and you're using this VAR system, and you're not catching something like a handball. Like, then what's the point?
Yeah, and I talked to some of the staff from Independence, and they said the VAR was, to their knowledge, only using the two broadcast cameras that were set up near the 50-yard line. There's obviously a building, a structure at the goal line on that side of the pitch where the handball did happen, because we have a fan cell phone video recording from right behind the goal line that shows clear and obvious handball. But apparently USL didn't want to invest the extra 50, $100 to put a few little 4K cameras at probably the most critical positions on the field to review a problem in the box on either side of the pitch. And, those little 4K webcams, you could mount up a few of those, have them connected to the Wi-Fi, and be able to use them for review. It doesn't seem like it would be a giant cost factor. But yeah, we have cell phone video of a clear and obvious handball. The play was challenged. It did go to review, and the call on the field stood, play on. So it's really disappointing from my point of view that they're going to implement a VAR light system without having the appropriate technology to really review anything. And it's going to be the ref's decision. The ref's already made a call. I think most referees aren't going to want to admit that they made a clear and obvious error. It just seems like it's less than what they could do. And I hope that they do take a look at what we've seen in these USL Cup games and hopefully implement some improvements moving forward. Yeah, great game though. In just pure soccer terms, I wasn't having a great time through the first 60 minutes, and then I think after that Luis Alvarez injury, with the teams coming together, I think things got more heated. The game got more exciting. Independence come back, score a second. They threatened. They could have had a PK. Joey Skinner missed a pretty open shot late in the game. Very well could have gone the other direction, but it was a blast. The fans, I thought, stayed through the game. The vast majority of the fans were still watching late, as we're 104 minutes into the match. It was a lot of fun, man. So good to see you out there. Let's take a step back and talk about Charlotte soccer, the cup competitions, the standings on the table, and I want to assign maybe a mid-season report card grade here for Charlotte Independence, and we can talk about Charlotte FC too. Independence are currently sitting second on the table, first on the table in points per game. They do have a game in hand, and they have that showdown with Union Omaha like you talked about. Independence has already beaten Union Omaha at American Legion Memorial Stadium. That next game I'm anticipating will be a away trip to Nebraska, and that definitely could be a showdown of the season. Independence second on the table. They have a cup set in the the US Open Cup. They beat a lower level competition team, and then they beat Charleston Battery to advance to play the first round where MLS is introduced. They draw Charlotte FC for the first ever 277 Derby, the Queen City Cup, whatever you'd like to call it. The first ever meeting of the two professional teams in Charlotte on the men's side here. Obviously, Independence fall in that matchup. Charlotte FC advances to the next round and lose to Atlanta United. In the USL Cup, Independence win their group, including an away win against Charleston Battery, a home win against Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and, a pretty good performance against the rest of the teams in that group. Only one team out of, I think, 5 or 6 teams advances, and Independence go to the quarterfinal, where they fall to Hartford Athletic, another USL Championship side. If you're looking at this Independence team, how would you grade them mid-season?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to give the Independence a solid A minus. I think that this is how you want to see a team perform. If they keep this form going into the rest of the season, they're going to make a big splash. And I think it could also be advantageous, if they can keep that first seed and they can get all of the playoff matches at home at American Legion Memorial Stadium. There is potential for to bring some people over. and really get some fans behind the Jacks in those games. It has been. Um, let me try and get the year right. It has been 45 years since there has been a soccer championship won in Charlotte, and in a lot of ways, you can say it's been 45 years since a top level pro team has won a championship in Charlotte. That doesn't apply to the Independents, um, the second part, but it would apply to a Division One team like the Ascent or Charlotte FC. And the Ascent have been very close the past 2 years. They've been the most consistent team in the short history of USLS, and um, I think I'm excited about what the Independents could do this year, and seeing. I'm gonna preview some of my thoughts with you because I'm working on a piece on the Independents, and for Charlotte FC, Brant Bronico has the nickname of the mayor, and we all know Brant is a very visible, um, I mean, like an essential part of Charlotte's soccer ecosystem. Somebody who represents both Charlotte FC and UNC Charlotte, and when you think Charlotte soccer, Brant's going to be one of the first names that pops into your head. But as somebody who has spent way too much time working in municipal government and local politics, um, I think of Clay Dimmick as somebody like the city manager or the school superintendent. Like, he is doing all of the work that folks don't see, not getting the credit. But that man is putting in shifts uh, year in and year out, and just doing it for the love of the game, overcoming things like some major neck surgery, becoming the first pro athlete to come back from um, basically a double spine surgery at two discs, um, being able to navigate adversity to be the captain of the Jacks, and just from thinking about a story, like thinking about the storylines in Charlotte soccer, um, seeing Clay win a championship this year and lifting the trophy as the skipper, um, I think that would be one of the best Charlotte stories we could, probably the best Charlotte soccer story we could see this year. Um, we've got that possibility. We've got, and don't get me wrong, would love to see the Ascent win the Players Shield and finally get that elusive championship. Um, would love to see Charlotte FC go on a tear and finally make it out of the first round of the MLS playoffs. But I don't think Charlotte FC is going to win a Supporters Shield this year. I don't think they're going to win an MLS Cup this year. Would love to see them do it. But the way the Independents are playing, I think we could see them lift the trophy, win the club's first championship, and win the first pro soccer championship in Charlotte in 45 years.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we talk about Clay Dimmick. We had him on here a few seasons ago for the season preview for the Independents, along with Hugh Roberts, who I actually spoke to after the game last night. He's now working with Backheeled Media and is doing a great job. He was giving me some tactical breakdown of the game last night and where things were kind of falling apart. But with Clay, he told us all about that surgery. I think it's a very inspirational story. And you talk about, Brant Bronico being the mayor. I have Clay Dimmick as the city comptroller. I think first of all, it's a cool sounding name. But like you said, he's that guy that's a little more behind the scenes and making a big difference, being a defensive player and a captain, 100 games under his belt, consecutive, playing 90 minutes. It's really, you cannot understate how incredible of a performance that is and what a story it is to be that kind of a comeback player and leader on the pitch. Not to mention just one of the greatest guys you'll meet. He's genuinely one of the kindest human beings that I know. Um, his kids are always at the games, and just great family. Him and Bronico are buddies from Bronico's time playing with the Independents during that Charlotte FC delayed season. You cannot say enough good things about Clay Dimmick. So I totally agree with you. And, in terms of a grade for the Independents this season, I'm going with a solid A. I think they've performed above expectations on every front, even while dealing with injuries. The only place I could take off a grade for them has been some of the lapses that I think are directly caused by players missing time with injuries. And there's not a lot you can do to control that, especially with the fixture congestion of competing in three separate, leagues and tournaments. And they've been advancing in the tournaments, so that just increases that congestion. But the loss of Luis Alvarez, Enzo Martinez, and when we first played in the US Open Cup, I mean, it was a laundry list. I think it was the Charlotte FC game. It was like the entire defensive line was out, and it was all backup players. They had to call up a reserve player from the Independents 2 just to fill out the roster numbers. So it's been an ongoing challenge. They've gotten mostly healthy, but now Enzo's out, Luis is out again. And some players are still dealing with some lingering injuries or training knocks. Prince Sadie was out last night versus Hartford with just a training knock. So I don't want to hit them too hard for something that's out of their control, but I'd give them a solid A. Just what a season. Probably the most exciting I've seen from the Independents. And that includes the game to the championship. The season they went to the championship against FC a few years back. Obviously, we're not going to have to deal with NCFC in the near future as their men's team has folded temporarily. Question mark. We'll see back when the USL expands to Division and promotion relegation here in the near future. Sam, we have the Charlotte Independence covered here. I think that just about does it. Any other thoughts for the listeners if they haven't been to an Independence game? What could they expect? What can you tell the folks about Charlotte Independence this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a really good product on the pitch. SoccerSheet, we partnered with the Independents for the U.S. men's national team game against Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I think we had a couple hundred more people than normally come to an Independence match. Got to see the Independence play and went out, and then got to see that Bosnia match, which was great. So it's a great easy night out with the kids and the family. And as the temperature gets down a little bit, I think folks are superlative about the view of Charlotte from Truist Field, but you have a different and but just as nice view of the city from American Legion Memorial Stadium. It's really easy to come down and have a fun time. And obviously, Dan D'Amico, if you're listening to this, please send my check. But you, like I think you can have a lot of fun at a Independence match, and it's not gonna bust your budget like a Charlotte FC match can.
Well, this is the Queen City Soccer Show, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little Charlotte FC. Just while we're on the midseason report card grades, you have Charlotte FC struggling. They've had up and down results over the season. Mostly a very good home record, but struggling on the road. You have the US Open Cup loss to Atlanta United. Not a very impressive performance in the US Open Cup. And now you have a Leagues Cup per, performance that started out really good, winning the first two, +5 goal differential, before losing the third game. So, Sam, with Charlotte FC sitting in 7th place, the first position out of a wild card matchup in the Eastern Conference, how would you rate Charlotte FC this year on a report card?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Atlanta United Open Cup match was disappointing, and that was in the round of 16. You know, I got into, you know, or SoccerSheet got into like an argument over the importance of that third Pachuca game in the League's Cup, and whether or not that was the biggest game Charlotte ever played. But with the Atlanta United match, they could have beaten Atlanta United, got into the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open Cup, and Cup where you don't have to face like Club America, or Cruz Azul, or some of the um, more talented Liga MX teams, and they could have made a run in the Open Cup. And I think that's been one of the interesting things about Dean Smith's tenure, in that Charlotte's never made it out of the round of 16 in the U.S. Open Cup. They got to the quarterfinals in League's Cup under Latanzio, but they haven't gotten out of the group stage. And as we're recording this, Charlotte is still alive in League's Cup, but they need some results to go their way tonight to advance to the quarterfinals, and then they would face probably Lyon, um, and would uh, get a tough match in the first round of the knockouts for League's Cup. Um, so like I think part of my question is, as a coach, with, as you mentioned, same as in USL One, you have this schedule congestion. You get more matches if you do well. Where do you put the focus? And do you, we've seen in League's Cup, luckily for Charlotte FC, Tyler Miller did a really good job. He gave up one goal in 3 matches. It's hard to ask for anything more than that from your second keeper. But like, when everything's on the line in this third match, like, you know, do you bring in Christian Colina? We saw Colina feature in League's Cup under Latanzio. Colina had the amazing PK shootout against Cruz Azul that year. I think were we both at I think we were both at Elizabeth that night, or at the very least I was, and the
Yeah,
place,
that sounds about right.
yeah, the place was electric when Colina made those saves,
Yep.
back in the '03, or the 2023 edition.
Yeah, back in
Um,
2003.
yeah, back in 2023. Um, and so like, do you make the push for that cup hardware? Um, Dean Smith's approach has always been to be more, significantly more focused on the league matches. And so what does that get you? Well, it's got him, not any deep runs for any of these cup competitions. But then, I think you get less experience as a team with knockout games. So when you get to the MLS playoffs, where Charlotte has had, an absolutely heartbreaking playoff in 2024, where you have that Diani penalty, and you have like last minute concede, go to penalty kicks. Pep and Swiderski both missed their first kick. Like, it could not have ended worse. And then And then last year, you have home field advantage, and New York City FC still, um, you know, run through you and win 3-1 at home. Um, and it sort of makes me think, like, could there have been more? Could the team have more experience in knockouts, and would that do them well in the playoffs? Don't know. I think we'll see this year. Charlotte has enough pieces to make it to the second round of the MLS playoffs. There's no, while we do not have Lionel Messi, um, in the East at least, it seems like all of the major MLS, a lot of the major European talent that's getting a little older, is going into with the exception of Messi, is going to the West. Um, I don't think that there's a single team in the East that Charlotte can't beat, even though it seems like Nashville really has our number this year. Um, so it's hard. I feel like I have to give Charlotte a C. I know that's a real rambling way to get to a C, but it's the same as the past couple of seasons. If you made me guess, I would say, yeah, Charlotte probably makes the playoffs and goes out in the first round again. And then if that happens, and Maxi can't do more than Zaha was able to do, then you're really asking, like, what's the future of Zoran and what's the future of Dean Smith? Because it's another. If they lose in the first round of the playoffs, it's 3 years in a row, no deep cup runs, no deep playoff runs. Ultimately, no matter how well the team played, 3 years of same stuff, different year.
I agree. I think a C sounds about right to me. You look at the way that Charlotte FC's finished. First year, ninth place in the East, not making the playoffs. Second year, ninth place in the East. Wild card game, they're eliminated in the wild card game. Third year, fifth place, eliminated in the first round. That's a road playoff series. And then last year, fourth place, home playoff series, and they're eliminated. So they've improved every year, one way or another, but they haven't made it past that first round of the playoffs. This year, with the Wilfred Zaha experiment coming to an end and the new era of Alan St. Maximum, we'll see what happens with it. But I'm still waiting on us to get a star player. I'm waiting on us to sign somebody I've actually heard of before we sign him. Wilfred Zaha, I guess I'd seen him in some highlight videos, but I wasn't aware of him, and he had been playing off in the wilderness somewhere in Europe for the few years before he came to Charlotte. Obviously, we want this team to win. We want to see the young talent get developed, and we have phenomenal prospect in Berchamus, but the Patrick Ajman deal to go to Derby, Adilson Malanda going to Middlesbrough, Kerwin Vargas now going to Brazil. We're seeing kind of an exodus of talent, and I'm not really seeing that talent coming back in. So even from a transaction point of view, where I would be giving Charlotte Independence an A for bringing back Luis Alvarez, bringing on Prince Sadie, bringing back Enzo Martinez, like the big names, they're maintaining and acquiring good talent for their level. I'm not seeing a comparable level from Charlotte FC. So I think the transactions a C at best, possibly worse than that. It's tough. And the performance on the field, we've seen Charlotte FC improve every year in their final standings. I don't know how they improve on a fourth place finish last year, because I don't think this team is a top team in the East. I don't think they're even. I think we'd be lucky to make the playoffs at this rate. And obviously, they have the ability to turn it around because we saw Dean Smith last on a skid and then followed up by an MLS record win streak. So, can they turn it around? Yes, absolutely. I just don't see where that production would come from. So, I think we'd be lucky to make the playoffs. It's probably another first round exit. So, I just have to agree with you. Tough times for Charlotte FC with a C grade from the Queen City Soccer Show and SoccerSheet here on a podcast, which is very important and many people listen to. But that being said, Charlotte Independence with an A rating. So if you want to see some A-ranked soccer from us, you can catch the Charlotte Independence at home, American Legion Memorial Stadium. That game is going to be coming up here on Saturday, and they are playing against. Let's see, who are we playing against?
Columbus Crew.
No, Sarasota.
For the Independent. Yeah, Sarasota.
Yep. Sarasota, a new club. They are towards the bottom of the table, but they have incredible looking uniforms. We talked about it here on the podcast. Just brilliant uniforms. Super cool. The Carolina Ascent also kick off their season on Saturday at DC Power. They have a new media rights deal this season, Sam. Do you know offhand where we can catch those Carolina Ascent games?
WCCB.
Okay, local TV, the Carolina Ascent. You don't need that Peacock subscription this year. I'm gonna wait and see if there's further details. Hopefully, they're streaming online somewhere. And then Charlotte will be at home opposite Charlotte Independence. Charlotte FC will be kicking off against Columbus Crew, and that is an important matchup. Kind of a 6-point matchup here because Columbus is. Oh, I'm sorry. They're down in 11th place, but I guess it could be a 6-point matchup by the end of the year. So definitely an important one, and Charlotte may be favored to win that. Big soccer Saturday, 9 points in play.
Yeah, well, and there's the we haven't mentioned Crown Legacy, but Crown Legacy is at or near the top of the Eastern Conference in MLS Next Pro. Pretty much every week, and then I think they've done a pretty good job, despite losing some names like Rodolfo Aloco to the first team, and they've Aaron John has both gone up to the first team and been injured. You've had a lot of new stuff. You've had a lot of new players get a chance, and like earlier this week, we got to see Magic Smalls score a brace, while his brother is had a really great couple of games for Leagues Cup. So just want to throw a shout out to Crown Legacy and give them an A or an A- for their season so far. I mean, they're definitely going to the playoffs.
Yeah, I strongly agree. I'd give them an A-, and that's mostly because of the usage for the first team. You have Morrison Ajman playing for the first team all season. You have Will Cleary, who's gotten called up quite a bit. He's basically full first team player at this point. Like you said, Rodolfo Aloco, Baiku Bale was on the bench. Aaron John got a debut. And, if Birchmas hadn't picked up an injury playing for the U.S. youth national team, he could have been in line for a little bit of playing time here recently. We call them the Crown Legacy Galacticos. I think that is a hotbed of talent, perhaps one of the most talented teams that we have seen here in Charlotte over the past several years. The upside is tremendous, so can't wait to see what they do. Hopefully making a playoff run and winning the MLS Next Pro Cup, or whatever they call it. That would be tremendous. And if they're still picking their opponents, I think maybe picking the strongest opponent for your first playoff game would not be the best decision this time around after how it went with that Columbus Crew 2 side. I still have bad memories of that. We had 30 shots on the game and no goals, and Columbus was 1-0 with 4 or 5 shots on the day. Just one of those games. But all right, Sam, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Tell the folks where they can find your work and how they can support SoccerSheet.
Yeah, SoccerSheet.com, at SoccerSheet on most of the socials. I think on TikTok you have to put an underscore between soccer and sheet. But find us at SoccerSheet on Twitter, on Threads, on Insta. And if you go to SoccerSheet.com and subscribe, you'll get multiple articles a week. And I got to take this opportunity to shout out all the people who are working on this project. Like, we have consistent contributions from Yara Albayari on video, Jorge Torres, in my mind, like, best soccer photographer in Charlotte, and Jorge's doing a lot more reporting as someone who speaks much better Spanish than I do. I have to mention my wife, Rebecca Wilden, who has done a lot of pieces and stepped up to do a lot of writing. Adrian Singerman has been on our socials. Seth Cook has done a lot of videography and shots this year. Jake Sokol is raising a kid and still photographing for us. So lots of great people on the team who are all working together as a passion project to put out SoccerSheet. And I'm just proud I get to work with a lot of amazing people and watch soccer.
Hell yeah. A lot of fun people. And I totally agree. SoccerSheet.com. Make sure to give it a subscription. You will enjoy it. And of course, we at the Queen City Soccer Show enjoy our partnership with SoccerSheet. So long may it continue. Sam, thank you so much for your time, man. I'm going to turn it over here to some of the Independence post-game interviews to let you guys hear our conversations with Coach Jeffries, Chris Jaime, and Clay Dimmick.
The game was what we expected. We didn't quite match the physicality and the pace of things. I felt like we actually were in it right at the beginning, and then under pressure a lot of the first half. The goal was timely and well played for them. The second goal is a killer. I think if we go into halftime 1-0, we still feel pretty good about how we played. We've had stretches where we moved the ball fairly well. We didn't get a lot of great chances, but we felt pretty much in it. Coming into 2-0, it was tough. Actually felt like we started the second half fairly well. Clearly the third goal was heads down and so forth. Credit to the character of the guys, even at 4-0 to push the game and still try to find a way back in it. Made it interesting for a couple minutes, but we weren't obviously able to get the third goal that could have really put some pressure on.
What's the status of Luis?
It's a quad injury, and then we'll know more tomorrow.
Mike, do you mind talking about that second goal? It seemed really uncharacteristic to give it up with that, really the defensive collapse that led to the one-on-one.
It was just a mistake. It was a poor pass from Rude. He just mishit he was playing a ball that he probably plays 50 times and never misses, and he just mishit a ball that he was trying to play across the field and put it right to their striker that was between them. And then it was not really a defensive miscue. I mean, the giveaway left the striker in wide open position. So.
And you started to touch on this, but can you talk about the character of the team to stay resilient and take two back even down 4-0?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, the guys that came on, we made the four-player sub. They upped the tempo of the game, and credit to Matisse for finding a way through and creating a goal. And then the second one was a nice play and good counter, and then maybe for 10 minutes we tried to push to get to the third, and I thought that was maybe the chance just to make them sweat a little bit towards the end of the game. But look, they're a solid team. They're very good defensively. They work very hard to press, and they work very hard with second balls, different in terms of how they play than anybody else we've seen, and that certainly caused us a little bit of trouble.
Did you feel that in the first half it was what they were doing, or less execution on Charlotte's part in finding those connections in the middle third to even get to the
A little of both. We couldn't. We weren't quite as good as we wanted to be on the ball, and didn't connect the passes. But a lot of it was their pressure and their ability to close quickly, and a lot of it was that, unfortunately, they were strong enough that they dictated a lot of the tempo of the game. They played direct. They got the second balls. We couldn't. We didn't get. We won a lot of first balls, but we didn't get the second ball. And then once they got the second ball, they were able to play and sort of dictate the tempo of the game. More than we were.
Do you think they're better than their position in the championship? They were ninth coming in.
I can't say. I mean, we played 3 games against championship clubs. That's hardly a basis to make an opinion on that.
Coach, what was your experience with the limited VAR that USL's implemented here?
I felt like we both took gambles that we knew we were going to lose, but you just say, what the heck? Why not? At this point in the game, you might as well throw the card out because it doesn't do you any good once the game's over. Yep. So, I think to be fair, I thought the review of the goals was pretty good. For the most part, it was pretty quick. So I think that was good, and I think that was timely. As I said, there really weren't plays that I think we're going to come away with and say, I wish the referee had made a different decision. That's on a key play.
Did you see any of the video they had? I mean, the quality of it to make
those
decisions?
No, we're not allowed to go in, and we're not allowed to talk to them. So,
given the cameras around here, I can't imagine it would have been too great.
I'm sure that's a major issue, and probably a bigger issue with League One that doesn't have as many cameras. But that's, you can argue that something's better than nothing in terms of the equity of the game. I think we've all had games in which there are, a key decision that was wrong, that even the referee people admit is wrong, and that we'd like to see overturned.
I had no angles from my position, so I couldn't argue with any of them.
No, there was nothing in this game. There was certainly nothing, and like I said, I thought the cards that were used were just, why not?
What was going on with their keeper when Luis went down? I mean,
so look, that was probably the only play I thought was in poor form. Luis went down, obviously hurt. He leaves the ball. Like any courtesy in the modern game is to kick it out or just to blow it. I mean, technically, look, the referee doesn't have to because it's not a ball that's out of play or a stoppage. I mean, the game's live, but it's a well done courtesy.
It's different than him losing the ball in a tackle. In play.
Correct. He had good possession and he just walked away from it because he was injured. Yeah. And that was important. That was important for him. And our guys argued that that's bullshit.
I just don't even know why their keeper got involved.
He shouldn't have been.
Thanks, Mike. Chris Jaime, tough game out there today. You guys look like you played your hearts out. Can you tell me about the match?
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a tough one. We know that we wanted to come out here and win, but like I was just saying, they came out and played a bit differently than we expected, and it caught us off guard. And I think the change that we did at half helped us a lot. But it was, I don't want to say too late, but obviously we made mistakes that led to the first 2 goals for them. But I'm proud of the effort that we all put out there before the tactical change and after. And we fought to get the 2 goals back, and obviously you could say with a little bit more time we could score more, but that's how the game goes. And credit to Hartford for how they played today.
Absolutely. So tonight was the first time that at least I've seen the video review used in this competition. Was there any difference that you noticed on the pitch with the delays and the calls that were made?
Honestly, a little bit. I think some calls took a bit of time that kind of killed our momentum a little bit because obviously in the first half we struggled a bit to get that momentum and get the ball moving, and when we did, it seems like sometimes the play stopped. But I mean, credit to the USL for bringing us in, and hopefully it'll be a bit quicker in the future. But I think it's beneficial for small calls and stuff.
Absolutely.
The first half seemed to be less what they were doing, but y'all just not connecting in the middle and final thirds.
No, 100%. I think going back to tactically, I think we were a bit too fallen back in our half, and and focused too much on dropping back that we just didn't really have the
You
legs.
thought they were going to go long?
Yeah, for the most part. And, you know, they snuck playing their six a little bit more. We'd step out, then they'd create the gaps.
Clay, can you tell us about the match tonight? It was pretty hotly contested, especially in the second half there.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, there's a lot to play for. You're in a quarterfinal of a cup, and you're 2 games away from the final. So going into it, everybody's emotions are high, and you treat it like a final, do or die. So the emotions were there, and the intensity was there. It's just frustrating to come out on the losing side. But, I mean, like, the second half, we pushed the game the whole time. First half, obviously, was a little disappointing, but the second half, I can't fault any of our efforts, and I think we all left it out there.
This wasn't the first time you played a USL Championship side this season, coming off 3 consecutive wins over the championship. How did you guys feel like you stacked up physically, technically against a side like Hartford Athletic?
Yeah, the thing is, like you said, we've played the top of the top in the championship, and we beat them. We compete with them every time we played, and I think like tonight there was moments where you saw that we're just as good as them, and we've had the better of them in moments as well. Obviously, they scored 4 and we scored 2, so it's hard to see that if you just look at the scoreline. But if you look at the game, like individuals to individuals, like the guys that we have in the locker room, like you'd pick them over them, in my opinion, because we're gonna fight, we're gonna battle, and I don't think like that scoreline is a representation of our team. Like we know we're better than that, and I think, like I said, in moments we showed it.
So the fans stayed in the stands despite the scoreline, and that last 15-20 minutes felt like there was a lot of energy in the place. Can you kind of tell me what was the mentality like?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said in an interview to Steve last Saturday, like the difference in this team and other teams is our mentality. And this was another test of that when we were 4-0 down, 4-1, then 4-2. Like we never stopped pushing. Like you said, the last 15 minutes we had the best of the game, and we just kept running and fighting. And I think like that's just a credit to our mentality. And like I said, that's kind of been our X factor this year.
X.
Yeah. So, you know, it looked like after the second goal, 36 minute. For the rest of the first half, you know, you all looked like the USL Championship time side. Like, what were you doing to make 2-0 live up to its reputation as a dangerous scoreline?
I mean, I think like Mike and the staff set us up going into the game really well, like tactically. And so I think just trusting that and going into it confident, knowing we can compete with them, and not really giving them too much respect. That's what we kind of did at the end of the second half, or at the end of the first half, and then going into the second half. And we were able to get 2 goals. So I think like having that confidence in our group, we need to be able to do that every day.
Obviously, you know, you need to rotate the Prinx tires, go back to USL 1 play. What are you looking forward to in the season? Game in hand, second table?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, the good thing is we play on Saturday, so we get to get the taste out of our mouth right away, which is huge. I think all of us are ready to go to ready to host Sarasota here on Saturday and get a win and move past this game. And ultimately, like we want to chase trophies. We did it. We're one of 2 League One teams to get out of our group and go to the quarterfinal. But now all of our focus is on the league, which is a blessing in disguise, and we can put all of our time and energy into that and go chase a league title and a trophy in playoffs as well.
Cheers, congrats on the run.
Are you thinking about that, or is it just every game, one game at a time?
I mean, you'd be lying if you said it wasn't in the back of your mind, but the big thing is we're trying to stay process-oriented, which means the day-to-day, whether it's training, tonight will be recovery. You wake up in the morning, start getting ready for the next game, regen tomorrow. So taking it step by step, I think being in the present moment and being process-oriented will help you reach your goal in the end. But, I mean, obviously that's written on our whiteboard in there. We had a players meeting at the beginning of the year, and I asked what are our goals, and we all said win a trophy. So that's what we're trying to achieve, but we can't get too caught up in it.
So, yeah, I thought they had some good insight in that tough loss to Hartford Athletic. It was 4-2 final, and you know, lots of controversy around some of the events in the game, but it was an exciting one, and Independence acquitted themselves very well. Sam, as always, we say here, it is for the cup, up the Jacks, and for the
Por la
crown.
Corona.